Alright, what's going on everyone? I'm Israel's Company, back with another deck profile, this time for pure purple Kaido. I went to a different locals this week, played at Perfect Circle Games out in Niles. They had 23 people show up, had a much more documented tournament results for me, because I wanted to make sure we got a little bit more data, a little bit more information about the deck I'm making, make sure that, if something's going on, I have more information for you guys and for myself. So we're going to talk about the deck. It's Purple Kaido. The ability is pretty strong if you're not, familiar with it, if you're new to the game. Essentially, you just KO, you neg 7 Dons, you return 7 Don from your board to your Don deck to trash an opponent's life. It came up twice in two different matches. It was best of ones, so that little bit of extra reach from Kaido is one of the reasons I really like this deck. Let's start with, obviously, the card everyone should be playing 4 of. I met someone who was only playing 3 of it, and he lost to me. We're playing the best card in the deck, 4 Onigashima. I don't really see a reason to be playing less than this. This card is what allows the deck to, stay on track. If you don't see this in the opening hand, 9 times out of 10 you're going to mulligan to get it. I had seen this card actually a total of 3 of my 5 matches. 2 of my matches I didn't see this entirely, and then one of them I saw after turn 4 or something like that. But you play 4 of this card. I have yet to see a reason to play anything less than 4. Now, the way I play this deck is it's just a bunch of counters, a bunch of 4Ks, a bunch of blockers. We're just trying to survive until 10 because our big guys are so hard to deal with. So we play 4 Rochis. Ability is nothing. You're never going to play this card. The only reason you use this card is because it's a 2K counter. That's really it. He's just a 2K counter. We play 4 of the Higarashis. It's your blocker. It's arguably better than Black Maria. Literally the exact same thing. The only difference is the 3K power. So sometimes if you're in that late game where you have this and Kaido and they have 1 life left, you have to spend 1 less Don to buff this up. But besides that, it's essentially the same thing. It still dies to Nico Robin, so there's that. Speaking of Black Maria, we play 4 of her. Does the exact same thing that this does. It's just used for blocking, same counter ability, nothing really special there. And like I said, we're just trying to max out on counter ability, trying to survive as long as possible. So we play 4 of the starter deck ultis. She's your 2K counter. In the deck limited battle, you would play page 1. You don't play page 1 in this deck, so again, you're very rarely going to play this card. It's primarily there for the 2K counter. Next up, one of the best cards in this deck is Queen. I don't know why this didn't get a foiling because the ability is so good. On play, draw 2, discard 1. So it recycles itself. It allows you to, fix your hand. If you have Onigashima on board and an Onigashima in hand, you can, that Onigashima that was doing nothing is now doing something. It's cycling itself for possibly a better card. Next up, honestly, one of the most unique cards that I've found so far for this deck is X Drake. I I don't know how I like this card a lot. I was gonna say I don't know how to feel about this card, but I like this card a lot. I like that it's a 2K counter because again, I'm just trying to survive to late game. But the number of times I didn't think the ability was that good. So on play, you can return a Don to the Don deck to have your opponent trash a card from their hand. And at first I was like, that's okay. Like, this card trades itself for a card in your opponent's hand. So, they each trade themselves. But I realized at later stages in the game, especially against some aggressive decks, um, they're going to have a limited number of cards in their hand. For example, the last round I was playing against Pure Green Kid, and he had 2 cards in hand. He had used the swing twice ability with his leader earlier, so he discarded like a Punk Gibson, so he only had 2 cards in hand. And I swung into him. He discarded a card, and then he seemed like he didn't really want to use the other card or couldn't use the other card, so I dropped X Drake while I still had the Don left. And he had to discard the card, and I believe it was the 7 cost blocker for them. So this card's honestly really nice. You're not typically going to play this card on curve. You kind of want to save this card for when your opponent has less cards in hand and really make them think about what they want to do next turn. Otherwise, you're really just keeping it for the 2k counter. So I think this card's honestly very well balanced for both sides of defense with the 2k counter and offense with the discarding. Now, the one thing, because this deck struggles if you don't see Onigashima, I did like a list I had seen earlier. So I play 2 Babanukis and I play 2 Fukurokujus. These are just vanilla, but they're thick. So you got a 5 cost 7 or yeah, 5 cost 7k power and a 6 cost 8k power. And the last match of the night, so round going into round 5 against, Green Kid, I didn't see Onigashima, which is kind of hard to deal with. And I worked my way around to just being able to get Babanuki out on a good turn, dealing with his board, dealing with the resources, got Babanuki out. And I just sort of started taking the game because 7k, even if I swing in, 7k is really hard to get over, especially considering this deck has a lot of 2k counters. Similarly with Fukurokuju, there were a couple games where I just put him on board, and it's an 8k booty. From the leader, that's going to cost at least 3 Don just to match it. So it's really a hard card to deal with on curve. So I like those 2 cards in the case that you don't see Onigashima. You're very likely to see one of those cards. Now to, the hard removal. I don't play any Who's Who. I'll get to the, replacement for that. We play 4 Kings. I like this card a lot. It just KOs any 4 costs. It's a 7k power. It's from the starter deck. It's really good. I don't see any reason to play less than that. Some people play 2 Kings of the new King. I play only 1 of the new King. This is essentially the replacement for Who's Who. It's 7 cost 7k on play. You take out 2 Dons, so it does about the same cost of 2 Who's Who, but it has better stats in like a group. Like Who's Who, they both add up to only 6k power, and that's individually. So I got to put 2 Don on them each just to get them to beat over the leader. So I like this. It's essentially my 2 Who's Who. But on play, it KOs a 3 cost or less and a 2 cost or less. So I only play 1 of him, though. I don't really feel the need to play 2. Typically, if I'm against a more aggro deck, the Babanukis, the Fukurokujus, the Kings are all going to do essentially the same thing as this card does if I were to play another, or the Who's Who's, but I'm not going to play those. I like big numbers. Big numbers are fun. So I play 4 of the 9-drop Kaidos. Just KOing a 6 cost or less or rush kind of just takes games sometimes. You just KO any of their blockers and then just go swing for face. Sometimes, you KO whatever they did earlier. If you see Onigashima like I didn't, you just KO wherever they are, swing face, and now they have a 10k to deal with. So I like this card a lot. I like to see this card. Not in too many, but I still play 4 because I want to see it. This deck doesn't have any searchers outside of Queen, so it's just something to keep in mind. And I only play 2 of the 10 drops. I think any more is too clunky and gets too bricky. It's a great card, don't get me wrong. But I think seeing this in multiples can be bad if you don't have the right hand to supplement it. Like one of my matches, I forget which, but I dropped the 9k on my opponent, and then I decided not to use the ability because I noticed it was a Kaido mirror match. I noticed that he had 10 Don, and I decided not to use the KO ability because it was like he's probably going to just drop, the 10 drop Kaido because Kaidos play Kaido. He dropped the 10k, on me. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I decided slap it down, basically, KO his 10 drop. It's a really nice card, but you're never gonna play this unless you need it. And typically, those situations you've either survived long enough to see this on your own, or you've seen it with the Queen of something like the Sword. So I only think of 2 of those, maybe 3, but I would not play 3. Next into the counters, we play 4 Blast Breaths. This card is free real estate. It's a 1 cost 4k, you neg 1 Don. The neg 1 Don isn't really a thing. It's fake. This is really just a 1 cost, 4k power. It's really nice. And then the last counter I play, I play 3 Thunder Baguas. Um, this card I'll drop early sometimes if I don't see Onigashima or like my opponent's being aggressive. Like if my opponent swings in with like 6 or 7k, sometimes, and turn 2, I'll keep the 2 open, I'll just drop it. Because again, we're trying not to take damage. Any amount of damage you can avoid with Kaido gives you an extra turn in the game, and each of those turns stacks up because you play a bunch of big cards that destroy things. So the longer you can survive is really good. Additionally, this is one of the good triggers where if it's added from life, you get to activate a Dawn from your Dawn deck. So, it's just an additional bonus to that. I don't play any of the Brachio Bombers because I'm playing so many 9 drops and I really don't see the need. But anyway, let me know what you guys are playing. If you don't like something, if you do like something, perhaps maybe you're that guy at locals who's playing maxed out, 10 drop kings, or not kings, Kaidos. So let me know. We're always trying to make it better. There's no such thing as a perfect deck list. So let me know, and I'll check you guys later in the next video. Peace.